Hello and welcome to the Confidence Mastery podcast. Today is a very, very, very special episode because we are being hijacked by Gerald Ratner, who's going to host today's episode with one of our Gerald Ratner and Friends mentees. His name is Ghassan, and I'm really excited to speak with you and share his journey. And also, we are going to give you an insight into what we do with Gerald and Friends as well. So you're going to want to stay tuned. So on that note, Gerald, over to you.
Hi, Ghassan. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to have you interviewing me. It's a big fan of yours. So.
Well, I very much appreciate that. And it is a bit of a first for me as well, because although I've done about 50 podcasts, I haven't actually interviewed somebody else for a podcast. So I hope that I'll pass the test. So could we just start off by you giving a very brief sort of story about your business and your plans and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a family business providing authentic groceries from the Middle East, South Asia, and Mediterranean region. We also have effectively a specialist supermarket. We have a casual dining restaurant doing Middle Eastern foods, so Iraqi and Lebanese. And we also do catering. So we have a catering operation bolted onto that, where we can cater up to 250 people. We've catered all around London, 4 or 5-star hotels and the surrounding areas where we're based here in New Malden and Surrey.
Well, that's great. But it's all connected in a way, although you've got a lot of strings to your bow. It's all about food and it's all about your type of food.
Yes. So obviously we started with a supermarket. My father set that up in 1988, where I was about 10 years old, I think, at the time. I've always been very interested in business and didn't really have an interest in working for somebody. It was always about sort of working in a business, doing business. I remember when I was about 6 and one of my father's friends came over. He had a Mercedes, and first time I sort of noticed such a big and fancy car. And I said, what does this guy do? And he was like, well, he does import and export. He brings in goods, sends goods out. And after that, I was like, yeah, at school, when they ask you, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I want to do import and export business. Not that I really understood what it was at the time, but was very, very much interested in doing my own business and developing it. It wasn't really called entrepreneurship at the time. I think it's more just, doing businesses. And I remember also sort of seeing you in the news and in the papers and seeing how you've done, how you've grown your business over those key years in the 80s and 90s. And it's sort of inspiration, really, because I think you also had a family business.
Yeah, we did. And my father always used to say the trouble with the jewelry business is people don't eat the stuff. But you haven't got that problem. They eat your products. And trouble is with jewelry, they buy it often once, an engagement ring is once in a lifetime. If you're in the food business, it's once in a daytime. So I envy you from that point of view. But I mean, how are you going to expand your business? Have you got any plans, sort of? Because the world is changing so much, particularly in your industry.
Yeah,
a lot of people now are getting stuff delivered, and you can't stand still.
No, I mean, for us, we moved into the restaurant side because we had the existing customer base. So it was really about what can we provide them that we can sort of increase our sales and give them some new products and services. So we moved into the restaurant. There's also sort of looking at vertical integration. So we've got the raw ingredients from the shop. We can then use them and have some savings there. So we pushed on that. And then with the catering, again, it's the same customers effectively, but the catering is opened us up to a much wider area, and people remember you, they know you when you do weddings, parties, birthdays. So our little business now has become very integral part of this local community. And I want to take that concept now and grow it further and actually look at replicating this into different areas. So we do have quite an ambitious plan. I would like to open more stores. I look to acquire a few businesses on the way. We're also looking into these dark kitchen formats, which we've sort of recently signed up a deal to do, one of those dark kitchens where people don't come in, but we'll actually deliver the goods in a specific area. So
that sounds great. But are you catering for people like myself that are not from your background? I mean, I'm Jewish, and there's sort of Jewish restaurants that do salt beef sandwiches and stuff like that. And then people who are not Jewish suddenly discover how fabulous salt beef sandwiches with lokshen soup and latkes and everything that goes with it. They, and they've never had it. Because I'm Jewish, I've said, well, you must try this, come to this Jewish restaurant. And they love it and they're hooked for life. So, I mean, what's your approach in terms of your customer base? Are they just from your background, or are you striving to sell your products to everybody?
no, I think our food types obviously is Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, so it's very popular. It's the food's quite light, it's healthy, and it's tasty. So a lot of people, most of our customers aren't just Arabs. We have a lot of Asian customers. Traditionally, they'd normally get their Indian foods, but they like our food and they like their food being so oily. So they then end up having some of our food as well. So all the grills, all the shawarmas, where we do all the live barbecues and stuff. So the type of food really opens up to everybody effectively. And once you've tasted it and you know the shop locally, then it's easy. It's an easy sell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it must be difficult for you having this conversation today, because I know you're fasting. I wouldn't like to. We only fast once a year on the Yom Kippur. And, the last thing I'd want to be doing is having a discussion about food.
Yeah. Well, I've grown up in the food side, so it's you forget about it, you don't think about it really. So because you're always in it. It's not like you work in an office or a desk and I'm hungry and you want to go and think about it. You're always in it. You're working in it, so you don't really look at it as somebody else will. So yeah, so not a problem. And I need to lose a few kilos as well, so I'm using it as an opportunity now to get fit, which I think Natalie probably will have some advice for me on. So yeah.
Well, I don't. It's a bit like me being in the jewelry business. I never wear it. Everyone used to say to me, "Why don't you wear any jewelry?" So I said, "Well, because I see it all day, and I'm not interested in it." But obviously, you
I
can.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, would you say the most lucrative part of your business is your catering side or your retail side?
Yeah, I think generally catering is a more profitable business, especially when you know the numbers and you may have a 200 or 300 per event, 200 people event. So definitely the catering side, the restaurant side is pretty good. The supermarket is the bread and butter. It's you've got regular business from that. I mean, we were very lucky over COVID to have the supermarket business was one of the few businesses that was allowed to trade and work. Where the restaurant, all our catering orders were cancelled. The restaurant was closed 3 days a week. We kept a very sort of small crew there, and but the supermarket, it was crazy to be out there. I was out every single day going to wholesalers and suppliers and trying to secure the stock to get it back in. So for about 3.5, 4 months, it was 7 days a week, probably from 6 a.m. till midnight, non-stop. So
yeah, the business shifted out of hospitality into retail.
Yeah.
And now to a certain degree, has it come back? How's the restaurant doing?
Yeah, I think a lot of things have settled back down. People are back into restaurants. There's certainly the first, once with the lockdowns opened up, there was a huge surge in demand for catering because a lot of people had functions, they'd postponed engagements and whatnot. So there was a big demand for that. Supermarket has been steady. For me at the time, once sort of everything settled down, I had to sort of sit down and think, what do I want to do with the business now? Because we've had this boost in the business where on some days you'd end up doing five 5 days worth of sales in one day that you'd normally have, and this was consistent over a period of several months. So it was either decide to say, look, we've made some money from the business. Should we look at even exiting? Because you can get a premium for it now, because a lot of people have just been sitting on the sidelines looking at these businesses thinking, wow, they make a lot of money, and they'd be willing to pay a high premium. Or do we look at reinvesting back into the business? And for me, because I think similar to yourself, I've grown up in this sector with you in the jewelry side. It wasn't much of I didn't have to think about it too much. So we reinvested back into the supermarket. We built out 2 sets of extensions at the back of the store, and we grew the store, made it even bigger. We built a purpose-built stock room, small warehouse unit for it as well. And we've geared the business up. So we've put it up to another level, and it's worked. We've got good sales, better sales than what we had pre-COVID. And we're not that far off from the COVID sales even. So, and now we have a concept that we can actually replicate and move out. What we're doing now with the technology side really is where we're focusing, because we need to get the technology side on the retail as well. And that's what's going to make the difference really compared to other stores.
I agree. I mean, the technology, people that are falling behind the technology are the ones that are suffering. But my wife bought a chicken yesterday from, not that I like chicken particularly, but it's irrelevant. But I could not believe the price of a small chicken from Waitrose, which is £21. I mean, how
organic?
It was organic. She insists on organic. I said, well, why don't you get it from Aldi? And just because they don't do organic or very little of. Yeah, she insists on organic. I don't know. To me, it's of no importance whatsoever. But nevertheless, prices like that, they're talking about food prices going up as much as 25%. I mean, is that how are your customers going to afford it?
Prices have gone up more than 25% over the last couple of years anyhow. Prices of, I mean, you're probably talking about averages, but here on the ground, where you're actually looking at goods coming in, some stuff have doubled, and over Christmas and before Christmas, with all the energy issues going on, and all that scare that was being in the media. I mean, you'd get a product that you'd normally sell it for £1. 2 weeks later, when the new stock come in, it'd gone up to 120. 2 weeks later, when it gets replenished again, you're looking at 149. So you look 50-60% increases. I think people have probably slightly changed what they're buying. So they're probably thinking about what they want to buy, and maybe reduce the variety. I think what we've done as a shop is reduce the variety, the range that we're offering. So provide the good quality stuff, and have a reasonably priced range as well. So for offers and promotions and stuff. And that's it. So it was mainly those 3 lines now. We have a high-end quality item, a medium price item that's sort of popular brand, and a lower price item. And then you're sort of covering the whole spectrum of customer bases, really. What we're doing now also is we're actually starting to source our own suppliers. So we're repackaging some items. So we're buying larger bulks, repackaging with walnuts, cashews, and stuff like that. That we found we're getting a better price. So we're able to do the offer, provide the offer to the customer, and make a slight margin for ourselves as well.
You mentioned nuts. That's my weak thing. I don't have a sweet tooth, but I love nuts.
I wish I knew that. I've sent you a little parcel, actually, you and Natalie. I've got some nuts in there for you, but if I'd known, I'd have put a nice little range.
Well, I absolutely adore nuts, and I ordered some from Costco online, and a jar of cashew nuts. It was quite a decent, a sweet type of jar.
Yeah,
was $13.99. And I get through them quite quickly. So I ordered 3 things and paid 50 quid. And my wife said, why are you spending 50 quid on nuts? You are nuts. We know that. But nuts are, really, I mean, I know there's some, my mother actually comes from the Middle East. She was born in Baghdad, maybe, and she's always eating.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I was born in Baghdad as well, actually. So it's
Right.
yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, she was thrown out. Not that this is about me, but they threw her out for being Jewish. So you're lucky. But yeah, but they took her in India, um, which I'm always grateful to, to that country. But she was always a great cook. And so I was brought up on a lot of the sort of probably the products that you're selling. I mean, I don't know what are your best sellers in food?
Our best sellers. I think what sells well in the shop, you've got obviously the fresh bread. So we have an in-house bakery. We do all the tandoor bread. We do the samoon bread, the diamond-shaped breads. And then you've got things like this, I think the nuts as well. And you've got the staple products. Obviously, you know, with our customer base being sort of Middle Eastern and South Asian, it's a lot of rice as well. So a lot of rice, a lot of spices. We have hundreds of spices. So a big range. So it's more the staple stuff that they would cook in day to day, really.
We're just off the Edgware Road where we are at the moment, and you've got shops all the way along there selling that sort of product.
Yeah.
It's sort of Middle East centre there. And it does extremely well. It's very, very busy, especially in the evening. People seem to come out in the evening and buy it, so you have to stay out late. But I mean, I love that sort of food. I love all sort of food, but
So
I mean,
I mean, with our store, and like I mentioned earlier about the technology side, I think moving forward with most retail, it's if you just open a store and open the doors and expect people to come in, you're going to have a problem. Now your physical and your digital offering have to be together effectively. So for us now, and because we're sort of based in a sort of more of a residential area, so it's maybe a tertiary area as opposed to a busy high street, there's lots of chimney pots around us.
Yes.
And so it's really understanding how we can communicate with these customers of ours, and how can we communicate with the local community, and how we can provide some support and some return to the community as well. So then you really become an integral part of where you are. So for us, we sponsor the local schools. We work with the local schools. We do some of the food, some of the catering side to raise money for the schools, and then that goes back for them to buy books and other materials. We work with the local sort of any sort of local group locally here, like a church, and if they have any, we also do food surpluses, where we give out some of the extra foods that's left over to them. We've done some of the charity work with the homeless side of things as well. So YMCA previously, we've done quite a bit with that. And I think that's really important as a small business and as a business that is working, and you want to, you know, not only give back, but it also helps to differentiate yourself compared to others who are just focused on profitability and just their profits. And I think with the web now, we're rebuilding our platform effectively from the ground up, so that we can then send the promotions and offers via the social media platforms where we can communicate with our customers. We've recently taken a unit next door to the restaurant where we're going to sort of open it up and have it more of a space where you can sit maybe 30 or 40 people, so you can hire it out for private a function if you want. But we also want to be able to do sort of maybe cookery classes, so we'll promote cookery classes and let our local customers know they can come and join in. They can learn about certain foods, you know, things like that, where you're really sort of not just focused on the selling of goods, but the interaction of the local community. And I think that's really going to be a key in moving the business forward. I mean, there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of things have been done on omni-channel with the big supermarkets, with the retailers and stuff like that. But I just don't see the personal side of those things, where we really want to look at the personal side and have a two-way relationship with the customers. So with the work we've done on the tech side of things as well, we're moving forward with that, and I've actually been fortunate enough to be nominated for Retail Week Awards for Future Leader. So that's taking place tomorrow. So we'll find out the results. But we're up against eBay, Tesco, Hugo Boss, Harvey Nicks, Net-a-Porter. So some big names, and we're probably easily one of the smallest nominees there. But it's really.
I used to be on the board of Retail Weeks, but unfortunately I'm not anymore. If I was, I would have voted for you. So,
Thank you.
Community and back to the, that connection with food, which is something that some of my clients talk about as well. You do things differently when you break bread, don't you? So on that note, thinking about community and how you're a part of the Gerald Ratner and Friends community, and we'd like to give an insight into what it's like to be there. So could you share a bit about why you joined and what you're getting out of it for us?
Yeah, sure. So, look, for me, I think one of the most important things I've had and where I've grown my business is through mentoring, coaching, advice, really from people that have been there and done it. I've had my best success from when I've sort of teamed up with individuals like yourselves, Natalie and Gerard, where you've been there, you've done that, you've gone through hard times, you've experienced it. And then you can say, look, I've got this problem. What do you think? And then you say, look, yeah, we did it this way, or I would suggest do it that way, or don't do it at all, or look, take this deal and don't think about it because you're on you've got a good opportunity there. On your own, you just don't have that. You're thinking on your own. You might be a bit selfish in the way you're thinking. You might be, not really knowing where to go, and it's more of a gut feeling instead of sort of getting some people to help. So I mean, I've had I think you also know, but I think both of you know Neville Wright.
Yeah. So
I've known Neville for probably 3-4 years. He's fantastic, and he's really helped me develop my business. And so this year, when you introduced your program, Gerard and Friends, it was a no-brainer. I mean, an opportunity to get two successful people, one in the property side and one in retail. And the format was important for me as well, because it wasn't the one-to-one. I didn't want the one-to-one. I actually wanted a group setting. No. And the reason I wanted a group setting is because you've got several people there, and they're all coming from different angles. They're all coming from different experiences. They may ask a question that you won't be comfortable to ask, but they've answered it, and then you've taken notes from that. They'll ask questions that you've not thought of, or they'll talk about situations that you've not thought of, and later on, it's actually very, you recall it and you can go back to it. So if anybody's really serious about doing business, I mean, it's like being an athlete. An athlete, you can be the most motivated athlete in the world, but if you didn't get a coach, you didn't get the right clubs who supported you and helped you, you're going to be, I could have done this and I could have done that, and if I had the right opportunity, and that's all. You'd never make it. But you get the right coaches, you get the right advisors, and you still have to work hard. You still have to have the motivation. You still have to have the vision, but you're much, much closer, and the process is a lot more easier. They'll help you. They'll guide you through the hurdles and the obstacles that will be there. There's no business that's plain sailing. So yeah.
I think that's a really great analogy of it, don't you?
Fantastic,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Neville Wright is great guy.
Lovely guy,
Yeah.
he says what he feels. He doesn't he doesn't mix his words at all. So
No, he beat me actually to a speech which I was offered at Christmas, and then they sent me an email saying they were going to go ahead with Neville Wright instead, and which annoyed me because he is a friend of mine. And then they for some reason they copied the email that he'd sent to them when they asked him to do the speech, and it was so much better than mine. It was the most brilliant email you could ever imagine, and of course the final punchline to the email was that he's doing it all for charity as well. So how can you compete with that?
yeah.
He's a real mensch, as we call them.
Yeah, no, I mean he's done amazing things in his sector. He's grown his business from 0 to, I think when he exited was, I think he exited for about 80 million. So, and we've had several conversations over time on key areas really, where it's like, well, I need to do 1, 2, or 3. Which one do you think, we should go for? And the first option I would like to do, but he might say no, actually I think the third option is better because of 1, 2, and 3 these issues. And then you talk and you assess, and then you make the decision. The decision have to be up to you at the end. You can't just follow what people say. You take it on as advice effectively, but the final decision has to be up to you of how you push. And business is pushing this.
Decision to join German friends. So you keep coming back every week. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway that you've had so far with Gerald Ratner and Friends?
I think it's that group. It's the community there. Everybody's really friendly, very supportive of each other. Even when we're not doing obviously it's once a week that we have our conference calls. So I think it's the group setting where we're effectively we're all together, and we discuss. Gerard gives lots of information and support and advice. And Natalie, you yourself as well. I mean, you really take, you guide everybody in the right way. You make sure everybody interacts and everybody says their piece as well. So you may have some shy people that may not want to talk, but you make sure that everybody has had their say, and that we've looked into each person's business requirements and challenges and stuff like that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for being a part of the team. We very much appreciate you.
Thank you. We really do.
So if you could leave people with one tip on how...
You're really pushing him now.
Yeah.
How many testimonials do you want?
No, this podcast.
Okay.
If you could leave people with one tip to increase their confidence, what would it be?
One tip to increase your confidence. I think, look, for me, it's to do the things that you're not comfortable with, really. So last year, I decided to do K2 Base Camp trek. This is the second tallest mountain in the world. Obviously, it's the base, not the top. And I've never camped in my life. I've never hiked in my life. I was quite overweight as well. And I thought, just go ahead and do it, and I had one of the best times of my life there. I did start training, I did start focusing. You start learning what you need to do, but really it's about just jumping in and doing it and not thinking too much about it. I think when you're scared about something, or you don't have confidence about something, you give yourself 1,001 excuses not to do it, or why you shouldn't do it, or why you should delay it. And sometimes you just say, yep, and like I said, for that trip, I had never camped. I'd never even had any interest in camping all my life. But I'd done a charity cycle before from Vietnam to Cambodia more than 10 years or 15 years ago. And I loved it. And I just recalled that. And I thought, to hell with it. I'm gonna just say yes and worry about the problem later. And like I said, we had so many experiences, new experiences, seeing shooting stars and being 15,000 feet above sea level and the mountains. And it was, you met some really nice people. Yeah. So it's just to do the things that you're not comfortable with. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, you know?
Exactly.
Fantastic piece of advice.
Yeah.
And one more thing before we go, I forgot to mention what Ekli means. So because obviously you're looking at a local community and everybody comes from different backgrounds and different needs and requirements and stuff. So Ekli in Arabic means my food or my favorite food, effectively. So the idea is that we're able to cater for most people's interests. So you might like, you know, a nice vegan salad, Natalie, or Gerard, you might like some beef, or, you know, kosher beef, obviously, but it's
I'm all about the meat.
you know, whatever you want to cook.
I
So
particularly like kosher pork sausages.
Yeah, there's a lot of halal pork sausages as well. So yeah, so it's yeah, so that's the story behind it.
Where can people follow you and find you? I'm a fan of online stalking, just not in-person stalking.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a LinkedIn, so Ghassan Hashim. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I've got a good following there. I post quite regular on sort of business activities and sort of regarding retail, sort of marketing and stuff like that as well. So that's the best place. Otherwise, you can catch us for Ekli Supermarket on Instagram as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being a guest. We both very much enjoyed this.
Really have.
So thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed it.
It's a real pleasure, and it was nice to have the two of you together. Sort of just the three of us to have a chat as well. So it was really
enjoyable.
And Gerard, with your, I mean, I've read your book. It was a fantastic book. So really found some interesting insights and how you've grown your business. Phenomenal growth. I mean, from sort of mid 80s to the early 90s, where you become the I think, is it the largest jewelry retailer in the world? Over 2,000 stores.
For a short time.
Amazing.
And
incredible stories all round. And so to everybody listening, thank you very much for listening. Make sure you download, listen, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, loved ones, colleagues, and even people that you don't like, because everybody needs a little bit of help. So thanks.
Bye.